Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with part 21, Conclusion of the Origin of Freemasonry and Knights Templar by John Bennett. Conclusion. Freemasonry presents itself under two different aspects. First, as a secret society, distinguished by a peculiar ritual, and secondly, as a society having a philosophy on which it is founded and which it proposes to teach to its disciples. These, by the way of distinction, may be called the ritualistic and philosophical elements of Freemasonry. The ritualistic element of Freemasonry is that which relates to the due performance of the rites and ceremonies of the order. It belongs entirely to the inner organization of the institution, or to the manner in which its services shall be conducted, and is interesting or important only to its own members. The philosophical element of Freemasonry is one of much importance. For it, and through it, the initiation is entitled to the respect and even veneration of all good men, and is well worth the careful consideration of scholars. This society, or confraternity as it might more appropriately be called, is distinguished from all other societies by the possession of certain symbols, myths, and above all else, a golden legend, all of which are directed to the purification of the heart, to the elevation of the mind, to the development of the great doctrine of immortality. But whence came these symbols, myths, and legends? Who invented them? How and why have they been preserved? Looking back into the remotest days of recorded history, we find a priesthood on the banks of the Nile, thousands of years before the light of Christianity dawned upon the world, teaching the existence in a future life by symbols and legends, which convey the lesson in a peculiar mode. And now, after thousands of years have elapsed, we find the same symbolic and legendary method of instruction for the same purpose preserved in the depository of what is comparatively a modern institution. And between these two extremes of the long past and the present now, we find the intervening period occupied by similar associations, succeeding each other from time to time and spreading over different countries, but all engaged in the same symbolic instruction, with substantially the same symbols and the same mythical history. During this intervening period, we find that the building corporations of the Middle Ages, coming from the Roman colleges of artificers, as in England, in France, in Italy, and in Germany, from the cloistered brotherhood of monks, devoted themselves principally to the construction of religious edifices. They consisted mainly of architects and skillful operatives, controlled by the highest principles of their art. They were in possession of important professional secrets, were actuated by deep sentiments of religious devotion, and united with themselves in their labors, men of learning, wealth, and influence. They assumed from the very first the name Freemasons. Subsequently, in the beginning of the 18th century, they threw off the operative element of their instruction and adopted an entirely speculative character. They became the Freemasons of the present day. The best authorities of today advance the theory that Freemasonry is the successor, with certainty, of the building corporations of the Middle Ages, and through them, with less certainty, but with great probability, of the Roman colleges of artificers. Its connection with the Temple of Solomon as its birthplace may have been accidental, a mere arbitrary selection by its inventors, and bears therefore only an allegorical meaning, or it may be historical, as a brotherhood composed of symbolic masters and fellows and apprentices, derived from an association of operative masters, fellows, and apprentices. those building spiritual temples as those built material ones. Its age may not far exceed 600 years, but as a secret association containing within itself the symbolic expression of a religious idea, it connects within itself all the ancient mysteries, with which similar secrecy gave the same symbolic expressions to the same religious idea. These mysteries were not the cradle of Freemasonry. They were only its analogues. In all places where these ancient religions and mystical rites were celebrated, we find the same lesson of eternal life, taught by legend and inculcated by the representation of an imaginary death and the resurrection of some cherished being, either the object of esteem as a hero or of devotion as a god. And it is this legend alone that connects speculative masonry with the ancient mysteries of Greece, of Syria, and of Egypt. There is no doubt that all mysteries had one common source, and no doubt Freemasonry has derived its legend, its symbolic mode of instruction, and the lesson from which that instruction was intended, either directly or indirectly, from the same source. And if we would respect the axioms of historical science, we must say that the body came out of the Middle Ages, but its spirit is to be traced to a far remoter period. The analogy of legends of the ancient mysteries and that of the present form of Freemasonry must at once be apparent, and the best historians of the day, even without documentary evidence, view the Temple of Jerusalem and the Masonic traditions connected with it as a part of the great allegory of Masonry. The Masonic organization has been molded into form closely connected with all the events and characteristics of the Solomonic Temple, so that now almost all the symbolism of Freemasonry rests upon or is derived from the House of the Lord at Jerusalem. So closely are the two connected that to attempt to separate the one from the other would be fatal to the further existence of Freemasonry. Each lodge is and must be a symbol of the Jewish temple, each master in the chair and representative of the Jewish king, and every Mason a personation of the Jewish workman. Note, if the reader will review these subjects in the order named and pages given below, he will find that there are sufficient grounds for the above conclusion on the origin, growth, and present form of Freemasonry as traced through the ancient mysteries, building of King Solomon's Temple, Roman colleges of artificers, building corporations of the Middle Ages, and the adoption of speculative masonry or present form of Freemasonry. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.